hemorrhoids. Hey, it's me, Cubase. Sorry for the mess. Very big mess, actually, mind you. And that's actually because I'm moving, hopefully pretty soon. And this house doesn't have the biggest space. But, besides that, good morning to my late birds out there. It's not really morning. It's nearly 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But, cheers. So I tried to do this sort of thing like a podcast before, and it didn't quite work because I just had my logo up, and that, you can't really relate with that too much. It feels kind of corporate, and it kind of just goes against my whole ideology. So the whole thing I'm doing now, which I hope can become a thing, it doesn't really matter about the views. I don't care about that. I just hope I can actually do this correctly, because I tend to have to do so many retakes, but I hope that it can work out, because I want to teach you guys, and I want to be able to, talk to you guys face to face in a way like Seamless R did, because this is what it's about, essentially, inspired by Seamless R. Now, if you go to Seamless R and go to his advice podcast, I don't know if he stopped doing them. I haven't watched the last episode, or like if he canceled it, or if it's just like that's it, it's over, like there's no more. But I'm sort of here to continue off of that. Not on behalf of him, really. Just kind of felt inspired and wanted to pass on a message. Like his sort of messages, but like in my own way, not to like blatantly copy. And I never in the history of my channel ever done this, like a face-to-face sort of thing, ever, really. Maybe in my live streams back in 2018, I had the face cam, but not exactly. Let me take this off. There's no reason to have these on. Anyway, so this video specifically is going to be about, Jesus Christ, it's going to be about my insane hair. That's better. It's about DAWs. So, DAW stands for Digital Audio Workstation. That is where you make your music. That's a piece of software. In theory, it could be a piece of hardware, I guess, if you have like one of those beat looping guys, whatever they're called in the synth world, which are pretty cool. But if I ever were to buy an actual like $500 synth, I'd buy like an actual synth, not a looping machine. But hey, to each their own. Anyway, off topic. Besides that, so a DAW, digital audio workstation, is like Ableton Live, Bitwig, FL, which is actually right in front of me right here on my computer. I have all three of those. Cubase, Logic, Reason, Cakewalk, GarageBand. Literally, Studio One. Pretty much, your fucking Samsung fridge can be a fucking DAW. But yeah, so this video is about kind of choosing the right one, and it's dispelling the whole rumor of this and this is better than that. Because okay, let's start with that. So if you go online on any forums, or you've just been around music for a while, as I have, I've started in late 2014. About 8.5 years into this now. You've heard the term, not the term, sorry. You've heard this whole thing being thrown about that this FL, like FL is not as good as Live, or like Live is not as good as Logic, and blah, blah, blah. It's like a hierarchy, which it shouldn't be like that, because a DAW, a digital audio workstation is... Hold that thought. My fans are going absolutely wild. I need to turn down the fan speed. So if you go online, I'm sure you've seen a bunch of people talk about which DAW is better than which. And, they always say like, oh, FL isn't as good as Live because Live has this and this feature and blah, 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 and vice versa. And it's like chefs in the kitchen, if you think about it. Chefs, that's why it's called a workstation. Chefs have their workstation, they have their kitchen. And not every chef is going to have the exact same kitchen with the exact same layout and the exact same ingredients. But they each have the ability to pump out professional high-end level dishes. And in some ways, even though some may have some limitations, it could actually lead towards creativity. There's the saying, limitation is the mother of invention, or something like that. I don't know the correct term, but you know what I mean. A perfect example of this, if I were to put it in terms of video games, would be Doug's video, where he reviews both simultaneously The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Red Dead Redemption 2. And he talks about how in Red Dead, since they give you everything right off the bat, you don't really have a reason to explore and be creative, as opposed to the complete opposite being the case in Zelda. So, yes, while FL may have some slight limitations compared to live, that doesn't automatically make it a bad program. If anything, it makes it a pretty helpful tool, especially because of one, FL is there for beginners, and the workflow too is really, really fast. For me personally, it's not anymore, but that's just because I've spent nearly 6 years with Live now. But for lots of people, and for me included at the beginning, it was a really great workflow. Live is geared more towards engineering and more towards sound design and like putting stuff together, laying it out, and like experimenting and stuff. Where as opposed to FL is made for just setting up ideas quickly and being there for a creative tool. Shut up, Windows. And that's totally fine, because some really great songs have come out of FL, and of course, some great songs have come out of FL. It's a professional DAW. The thing about FL is that it started off as a joke. That it started off as not a professional program at all. That is true. It was just called Fruity Loops for a reason. It was just a loop-based program. But then again, a lot of old, DAWs back in the day, like the ones that Deadmau5 would use, ancient shit, was basically that. You could still make something. But nowadays, even though it is a professional DAW, high-end and everything, which is extremely influential in today's music environment, it still gets treated as a joke, and that does not sit right with me. And moving on from FL, though, they say, for another example, Live is not as good as Cubase, because Cubase is used in professional studios, and Cubase is used for scoring music and all that stuff. And you know what? That's true. But here's the thing, okay? The reason that they don't use Live in a professional environment in studios that make scores is because Live is not made for recording. Live is geared more towards, as I said, engineering, editing, experimenting, audio effects. You could totally record on Live, but the thing about Cubase is that it is built for recording. Cubase is built for scoring. So it's essentially comparing apples to oranges and trying to say that apples are not as good as oranges because oranges are more acidic. It doesn't apply. And if you go to a normal record studio, if you go to a studio that's geared towards just the creation of music in general, then you will for sure see Live. And you will for sure, definitely, not a lot, but you will see Fruity Loop Studio. You will. Just not as much as Live, because Live is just so useful. It's an all-around program. The thing about how I view Live, and how I hope you guys will too, is that Live is essentially a step up from FL Studio. The thing about FL is I got started with FL. I recommend that you guys definitely get started with FL. It's a really easy program to get into. It's very liberating. You could do anything you want. You could put clips on audio tracks. You could put audio tracks on MIDI clips. You can put automation clips on MIDI tracks, and so on and so forth. It's essentially if you have a child and that child is eating spaghetti, you'd let that child start off knowing how to eat by grabbing the spaghetti and just mushing it all over its face, spreading it everywhere. And then a couple of years down the line, 1 or 2 years, you start to teach it, and it starts to see that people have to grab the fork and they have to twirl it and they have to eat it. And then slowly but surely, it'll become either really great at the dinner table and have etiquette, or it could even become a professional chef. Professional chef being scoring music, Cubase, and a professional eater as in just being a music creator just for the sake of music and enjoyment. Not the best comparison, but I tried. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say is that it all just really matters what you're trying to do. And FL, you're starting out, is great as your basic ABCs, but you shouldn't stay with your basic ABCs if you're planning to do professional literature. Because the problem with FL, and it's a pretty big problem, is that its workflow is too liberating. You want it to be as organized as possible. And at the beginning, you want the spaghetti to be everywhere. You want the kid to feel freedom. But if you want that kid to grow up, you got to move on from FL. You really do. Unless you're going to stay with FL your whole life, which I don't recommend. Not because it's not professional, but because it's non-linear. In most professional studio and recording environments, like I mentioned before, you might find FL, but very rarely, and I do mean very rarely. Most of the time you'll find live, or you'll find Logic, you know, and fuck, you might even find Reason. I don't know what the reason is, but, you know, Reason's vertical. It's strange for me. But hey, to each of their own. FL is a little too free. For me personally, like Deadmau5 said it best, good luck switching from FL after like 3 years of use to something else. It's going to be a pain in the ass. I'd say maximum 1 year with FL until you get a groove with music. So when I had to switch, small story, I was an FL guy. I got started with FL. All my music knowledge came from FL, came from Seamless Art, came from Virtual Riot Studio Time. That's where actually my name came from, Growl Bits. Growls being, because my favorite episode is episode 2, and he showed us how to make growls. Not episode 2, that episode where he talks about the Goldmeyer growl with the line. And the bits, just because I like to focus on each and every little bit in my music. You know, I'm a perfectionist. But anyway, the point is, I started with FL. My friend showed me that FL was indeed not a video creation program, as I initially thought. It was actually a music program. Now, I don't know how I found it on my computer. It just kind of popped. It was my dad's computer. It was just there. And he said, hey, I got this cool program, and I think it makes music. And I just ignored it, and I thought it was a music fucking video creation. And yeah, and I just really started with FL in 2014, and then I had to switch in 2018. So if you count the years, 1, 2, 3, 3.5 to nearly 4 years with FL, right? And the reason I had to switch from FL to live is because, one, I kind of always wanted to switch to live because it just looked cooler. I just looked more professional. I hate the way I used to think, but still. And also because FL glitched. So the glitch, if I remember correctly, in FL was that when I would do a filter cutoff, or I would use an automation clip to do filters, it would be slightly delayed. I don't know why. Even if the automation clip was on the grid itself as perfect as it can, even with plug-in delay compensation, it would just not be on time. Like, at all. It would not be on time. And it was extremely infuriating. And I lost at least 5 projects because of that, because they would just not sound good. So I had to switch to live, and it was so painful. I tried to like watch videos and tutorials, and I kind of got into that. You know, thankfully a year before the major glitch, I was like watching some tutorials, but like even then, it was really painful. I think the only reason I mean that I actually tolerated live was because of like the session view at the beginning. I saw videos saying like, hey, you can like lay down ideas. I'm like, okay, that's cool. And I never used it again after I got a grasp on live. But yeah, that was my story about like how much I suffered switching to live. If you want to know just how long it took me to actually get used to live, it took me an entire year. A whole year. Okay, maybe not whole year. Okay, 10 months. There. 10 months to actually get used to the program to where I won't have to look up what keys do what and, you know, like what I have to do. 10 months. Give someone FL Studio with like 0 experience in music. Give someone FL Studio with like 0 experience in music, and they'll get that shit in like nearly a month only. That's how I did it. Moving on to the other part of this video to wrap it up. This is like the 17th take. Not in like a single day, just span of a couple days. But oh yeah, I don't think I told you guys, but this is the second take today because the computer just shut off completely because it had to update, and it didn't even tell me it was going to update. It just shut off. My video lost completely. Anyway, moving on. So last topic we're going to talk about is how to choose the right program for you. Honestly, just watch tutorials. See if that's something that would work for you. You know, look up FL. You'll look up live. I would for sure start with FL because it's just kind of made for that, you know, for starting out, for beginners. And, you know, you could definitely take it a step further and make it your professional career, but we already discussed that. And, you know, don't spend more than a year. Don't spend more than 2 years. How about that? Don't spend more than 2 years with FL, in my personal opinion. In a lot of people's personal opinion, trust me. It's like a trap. It's like this, you know, it's like, hold on, I can't get that on. It's like coffee. You try it out. It's like awesome. It's like really, you know, just gives you that boost, the dopamine hit. But after a while, you grow an addiction. And if you want to move on to something else, you know, if you want to try a different beverage in that specific day, you die. Did you get fucked in the ass? The migraines kill you. So, you know, walk into FL with care, okay? And once you move on to live or move on to anything else on it, I would definitely recommend live. But again, after that, you could choose whatever you want because FL was your ABCs. Now everything else is going to be professional literature, and it's your job to pick which pencil you want to use. No one's going to have the same pencil. Depending on, if you're on a Mac, their Logic, if you have, what's it called? GarageBand. Logic is essentially GarageBand times 50. Like, it's a really good program. But definitely look up the differences between the DAWs, what they're specialized for. Cubase is for recordings, or if you have a guitar, or if you like to sing a lot, or if you have live instruments, I would definitely highly recommend Cubase. If you like doing whatever Noisia does, I don't know what Noisia does, make good music, pick Reason. But Reason is vertical. Get ready to just have your world flipped on itself. It is extremely strange. If you want to make the best music ever, try Cakewalk. But for sure, if you just want to do all around, you know, step up in the music, you know, like actually like make the best music you can with the information you've got from FL, try live. It's an all-around program. But even I kind of want to switch from live. And it's not just because I can't stand being in the same place for like too long because of, I don't know, my grandma was like that. I always switch houses every 3 years. But it's the same thing with the DAW. But it's not just that I'm just kind of growing tired of the layout, but also just because I want to go a step up. I want to try something bigger. And I honestly don't know what I'm going to try. You know, if I had a Mac, I'd go Logic maybe to try it out. But I'm thinking maybe, Bitwig, if they ever patch it out. Bitwig works great for my workflow because I love to just put an LFO on everything possible. And that's the thing about Bitwig. If you just, that's what you're into, you know, modulating everything, then Bitwig is the program for you. Hope this video helped you guys out. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. If you have any suggestions for a better fucking camera, please let me know. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Oh yeah, subscribe if you want to see more and help the channel grow. And I will see you guys in the next video.